Welcome back to All Things Brewers, folks. We did it. Okay, we made it. Today is game one, the National League Division Series between your Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago Cubs. Pause for dramatic effect. We made it. It's postseason time. The Brewers got the bye. Sorry, was looking some stuff up before. Got to be prepared. I'm a responsible communicator, right? Okay, let's get into it. So the Cubs win in three against the San Diego Padres. We talked about both matchups in the postseason preview. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's an hour long. I kind of waffled, kind of rambled, but it's how I was feeling. On paper, I think the Padres were the better matchup for Milwaukee. And like long story short, the Padres don't hit homers, the Brewers don't hit homers. So in a short postseason series, the variance is lower against a team like San Diego. The Cubs have the chance to if PCA, Tucker, and Seiya each have 3 homers across 5 games in this series, that's a very realistic possibility. And that can be the difference between, a win and a loss. The Cubs have a very high ceiling offensively. And I think that has the potential to be the difference in this series. Really, it's going to come down to who scores more runs. But I think it's going to really come down to how much the Brewers are able to limit. My camera is falling. It's really going to come down to how much the Brewers can limit the Cubs from scoring runs. I think the Brewers' offense is the concern for a postseason series. Are they built to win in the playoffs? Does the kind of small ball, ball doesn't, we don't need an extra base hit to score 4 runs in an inning. We can put up a crooked number without power. Does that work sustainably in the postseason? We don't know. We haven't seen it. It's kind of iffy because we haven't seen any team do it, right? In this new postseason format, the closest we got is that 2023 Diamondbacks run when they made it to the World Series. They were a team that didn't hit a lot of homers, but they still hit for more power than this current Brewers team does. So, can it last over 162? It's a great way to play baseball. It works. But the Brewers lost 20 of their last 30 games of the season. How much of that is packing it in because they pretty much had the division and the 1 seed wrapped up? And how much of that is regression to the mean? Yelich didn't hit for a lot of power at the end of the season. Churio had a great game 162, but going into that game, he'd been cold for a while. Turang and Frelick have been kind of up and down for this last month. What are you going to get out of the Brewers offense? You don't know, right? If the bats are cold, if this 5-day layoff turns out to be a momentum killer, if the Brewers come out sluggish in these first 2 games at home, what does that do to the season? Is that it? I don't know. I think that the Brewers, as currently constructed, can win in the postseason, not just in the DS, not just in the CS. I think they can make a run. And here's why I think that. The Moneyball A's are notorious at this point, and it's because it was kind of the first team who really focused on modern analytics with on-base percentage and started prioritizing all these different things that teams have been overlooking. You pay for star names, you pay for 30 homers, you pay for 100 RBIs, you pay for batting average, you don't pay for on-base percentage, you don't pay for defense necessarily. They found guys on the margins who were able to provide value. And this Brewers team is built with a similar ideology because everybody knows about Moneyball now. Everybody knows that if you hit 240 but your on-base percentage is 350, that is a better indicator of success than somebody who's hitting 290 with an on-base percentage of 310, right? That's 3% more times that you're getting on base. That's more runs, that's more opportunity, like that's everything. But at that time, on base percentage was an undervalued skill. These days, batting average is an undervalued skill. Guys who play good defense, who don't necessarily hit for power, who don't have the flashy StatCast numbers, that's what's undervalued. So while Isaac Collins finished the season with an OPS around 800 and hit like 10 to 12 homers, like, does a guy who hits, like, take Zach Neto, for example. Zach Neto had like 25, 26 homers with a similar OPS to Isaac Collins. Is that inherently more valuable than what Isaac Collins provides? Probably. It probably is. If you're putting up the same OPS, the same like slash line numbers, but one guy is like an Isaac Collins double doesn't necessarily lead to a run. A Zach Neto homer does, right? So is that inherently more valuable? It probably is, but Isaac Collins was picked up in the Rule 5 draft. Zach Neto was a first round pick, right? Like, that's the Brewers are finding guys on the margins that are being undervalued because teams aren't prioritizing the things that the Brewers are prioritizing. So while a guy like Zach Neto is more valuable than Isaac Collins can be got for cheap. He can be held onto. He can be developed. You can give him a chance because teams aren't looking for Isaac Collins. They're looking for Zach Neto, right? And that's the parallel that the Brewers have to the Moneyball A's. It's not that they're just seeking on base percentage. It's not that they're trying to find weird, funky relievers that can fill a role. And especially with the 3-batter minimum, that's not, you can't build your bullpen in the same way that the A's of like 2002 did, right? But the Brewers have found guys who have been undervalued by baseball. Even William Contreras the Brewers got him for nothing, for Estieri Ruiz, who was a decent prospect, but William Contreras had proven to be an MLB level bat with Atlanta, but they just didn't think the glove was going to come along, so he was being undervalued. You could throw in a mid-tier prospect just so that the Braves could clear up their catching like log jam. And the Brewers picked up a guy who at worst was going to be a functional DH and at best is an MVP candidate. Like, it feels kind of like the Breaking Bad meme sometimes where it's like they can't keep getting away with it, but somehow they've managed to have this period of sustained success operating in this way. And, you know, I think some of us were worried when Stearns left, when Counsell left. What is that going to do to this franchise? They have held strong. And I think the way that they're built this year is the best version we've seen because they have some of the guys left from the 2018 run. Like, you have your Yelich, your Woodruff if he comes back after the NLDS. I hope so. Like, you have guys that have done it before, that have proven they can do it before, and were a part of that first kind of crop of like Brewers guys that were either traded for or coming up through the system and were turning into something. You've got some of that. You've got veterans. You've tried to sign guys. Yelich got the extension. You took the chance on Hoskins, thinking that he might have a bounce back. That hasn't worked that well, but like you love the initiative there from the front office. And then you've got Churio, who you locked up for a long time to be your guy. Bryce Serang, Sal Frelick had huge breakouts. Isaac Collins, not just a Rule 5 pick, mind you, the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft is how the Brewers acquired Isaac Collins. They have looked as good as they have ever looked. They set their franchise record for wins in a season where the National League is stacked. Absolutely stacked. 3 teams from the Brewers division made the postseason, and they still set their franchise record for wins. Those 97 this year mean a lot more than 97 in some other years, and I truly believe that. But back to the not to get too sidetracked by how the Brewers were built, how they got here. We all know that. This matchup with the Cubs feels significant because the Cubs are built very differently from the Brewers in some of the same ways, but the Cubs went out and made the trade for Kyle Tucker. They paid Craig Counsell a bunch of money. They signed Dansby Swanson to a 9-figure deal, right? PCA was the prospect in the Javi Baez trade, like in like a big deal, not just you know, we're gonna sneak into the back end of this Sean Murphy trade and pick up William Contreras and hope we can fix his defense. Like that didn't have the same kind of high profile impact of like we're selling Javier Baez at the deadline and we're picking up this Mets prospect who, if he develops offensively, is going to be an MVP candidate. He kind of did, he kind of didn't. What is PCA going forward? We'll find out. Man, this camera is crazy. All right. The Cubs pitching is very underrated. Matthew Boyd was an all-star. He's starting game one. He finished the season with like a 3.2 ERA from a lefty. Like the Brewers have a pretty neutral lineup, lefty righty, as far as like their splits, but it feels different when they're seeing a righty than when they're seeing a lefty because Terang, Frelick, and Yelich are all going to be everyday guys in your lineup. That's 3 guaranteed lefties that you're getting at the top of the order against your lefty starter, right? You probably see 2 of those guys in the first inning alone, right? So you want to see the Brewers match up against a righty, ideally. But like Terang and Frelick, they both hit lefties. Yelich has kind of gone back and forth. This year hasn't been his best year against lefties, but he's hit lefties in the past. And so, it's not like a terrible matchup for the Brewers, but this Cubs pitching staff has a lot of lefties. You're probably going to see Imanaga in game 2 or game 3. He pitched in their wild card series, but he didn't throw that many bullets. He had like less than 50 pitches, only pitched a couple innings, so they'll probably be able to get him back early in the series. The Brewers are going to go Peralta, I think Priester, and then maybe Quintana. Like the Woodruff's out, Mizorowski's out of the starting rotation too. Like you might get a Chad Patrick start, you might get an opener in a bullpen game. Like you might get Jared Koenig starting the game, and then Tobias Myers coming in bulk. Like, I don't know. Eric Fetty got DFA'd. He's off the postseason roster. He's not on the team anymore. So your bulk guy out of the bullpen is really going to be Myers, maybe Mizorowski. Aaron Ashby, they usually just kind of like go until you start to not look that good, and then we'll take you out. Like, just go as long as you can. That's kind of the Aaron Ashby recipe. So he could be a guy that factors in like pretty severely into one of these like middle games. He could be a guy that they try to push for like 2.3, and just like see if he can hold guys off. Sorry. The Cubs are a tough matchup because if the Cubs are clicking, they're a top tier team in the entirety of the major leagues. Their offense, especially in the first half, was scary. Like, you've got Dansby Swanson is going to be like your 6 or 7 hole hitter. PCA spent half the season in the MVP race with Ohtani, and he's going to be hitting towards the bottom of the order. Like, if he finds it for a few games, then, like, watch out. Kyle Tucker's done it in the postseason. Like, Seiya Suzuki's starting to find his swing again. The Cubs are a scary matchup, and the Brewers are coming off a layoff. That being said, I think that the Brewers understand that this series is going to say a lot. And I think, like, pressure-wise, there's more pressure on Chicago. I really do, because the Brewers have kind of had this season of destiny, but the Cubs are kind of up against a wall. Like, they need to prove that the way that they've built this roster is going to work, that putting the chips in for Kyle Tucker, putting the chips in for Dansby, for Counsell, like, all these things are worth it, make sense, are going to pay off. Like, the Cubs need to... And also, the Cubs were supposed to win this division. Preseason, and then through, like, the first half of the, through June or whatever, the Cubs were supposed to win this division. They were supposed to be the best team in the Central. They were supposed to be the only playoff team in the Central. And then the Brewers ran away with it in the back half of the year. So the Cubs have kind of been getting little brothered by the Brewers for a few years now. Granted, the Cubs did win the season series against Milwaukee in the regular season this year, but the Brewers have kind of had the number of everybody in the NL Central for a few years now, and the Cubs are the ones that kind of need to get that monkey off their back, like in that way. The Brewers are the ones with the postseason history the last few years that hasn't been that strong, so they have that to deal with. But the Brewers are kind of coming in with the upper hand. They have home field advantage in a rivalry series, which is huge. Like the energy in American Family was already going to be electric, but um, it being against Chicago is going to create like an insane atmosphere at American Family. I think it's going to be like I think Cubs fans are going to travel. They're going to travel well, and Milwaukee will travel well to Chicago. So there's going to be like a third of each stadium is going to be filled with opposing team fans. But I think that the home field advantage is huge in a divisional matchup like this, and I think the Brewers win in four. I think it's close, but I think they win in four. I think they take game one, and I think they take game two, and then they just need to win one of the next three. I think they win the first two at home. I truly do. I think that being able to set up their pitching, and what would have changed my mind is the Cubs winning against the Padres convincingly. They didn't. Like that went three, and it wasn't like it went three in a way that built them a lot of momentum. Like think about the Mets of last year, the way that they kind of beat the Brewers right at the last second in game three of the wild card last year. That was a momentum building play. Like that is the kind of thing that like launches a team forward and kind of creates this feeling of like, why not us? The Cubs did not beat the Padres in that manner. There was some weirdness with like the call at the end of game three, like the Padres had a chance. That didn't swing the series necessarily, but like the Cubs didn't do anything to like set themselves up for a push like that. And I don't think they're coming into the series flat, but I don't think they're coming in on a rocket ship. And I think the Brewers are going to be ready. I think that they've been preparing to have this bye for a couple months now. They've known it was coming. They've been able to look ahead to it. Pat Murphy talked to Joe Torre. He talked, I forget who some of the other guys he reached out to. Like he reached out to like these vaunted managers of baseball past for how to handle the bye. He talked to the team. Like they had a plan for this, and I think they're going to come in ready. I think Freddie is going to be every bit as good in the postseason as he was in the regular season. I think you're going to get 6 strong out of him tonight with 1 earned run, and the offense is going to get out to a quick start, and they're going to be able to hold the lead. Looking ahead to the NLCS is dangerous, so I'm not going to do it, but my official pick is Brewers in 4, although I think it's going to be close. A close 4 is my prediction. Go Brewers. I think Churio homers in the first inning tonight off Matt Boyd, and like I said, Freddie goes 6 innings, 1 earned, 8 strikeouts, and the Brewers win 4-2. There we go. If this is it, if this is the last series preview I get to do, thank you. I don't know what else to say. Go Brewers. I really feel like this could be the year. Please don't let me down.